Shubhang Saxena, who is an alumni for batch 1617, one of the founding members of Cybercrew, a guy who keeps keen interest in machine learning. He has also been an Alexa student influencer and lead in developer student clubs Google. He had also organized and participated in various hackathons. In today's webinar, we will discuss basics on IoTs, what are sensors, microcontrollers and microprocessors. In case of a doubt, you can always ask your query in the Q&A section and we will surely try to sort it out. Hope you find this section interesting and super informative. So let's get started.
Hello and welcome everyone to this session. My name is Shubhank, and I'm a third year ECE undergrad from Thapar Institute, and I have won somewhere around 6+ national level hackathons, including Smart India Hackathon itself. And as Nehal told you all, I'm DSC lead and Alexa student influencer. But probably my biggest achievement in the entire column was that I am one of the founding members of Cybercrew. And of course, I love to work on hardware. So that was all about me. So now let's just get started with Internet of Things. So what exactly is Internet of Things? So let's first check out a definition which states as follows. Sensors and actuators embedded in physical objects are linked through wired and wireless networks. Let that sink in, because I know most of you, I think that this definition must have bounced off for most of you. So let's just systematically break of what exactly IoT is. So as IoT is comprising of two words, that is the internet and other things. So what internet exactly is? Well, I think you all know about it because obviously you guys surf on the internet, you use social media. So in a nutshell, network of various devices connected and things. Well, for right now, we can say that
Shubham,
things are some. Yeah.
I would like to pause you here for a bit for more attendees to join.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Shubham,
Yeah.
can you describe your journey in the cyber crew? How was the experience like?
I was in class ninth and I was new to this school. And I think this started when six of us, Kautuk, me, Shivam Srivastav, Aviral, and Prakhar, and Divyansh Lal. Yeah. So we were six of the students who went to Kanpur for CompuFest. And then we saw their computer club and we thought of why not we start to build a culture of that sorts in our school. So I think at the end of that year, which was in 2014, we came up with an idea of Cybercrew. And then since the consecutive years, we were responsible for managing the computer fest that were happening in our school. So from there to this part, I think it's been what, around 8 years of Cybercrew, and it feels good to see you guys having these type of sessions and everything, because as far as we remember, we did not had any opportunity of this sort when we were in school. So the journey was quite good, and I enjoyed every bit of it. And I would attribute Cybercrew and the things that I learned over there to probably be the part of who I am in my college. The interest of computer science, the passion for programming. I think everything started from Cybercrew itself. So yeah, it was quite an eventful journey.
Yes, and thanks to you that you started it, and now almost every student is interested to join the cyber crew.
Yeah, I mean, see, exactly that is the point of starting any culture or starting any community as such. Because if in starting it was just six of us, now I feel that it's at least 20 of you in the team who is interested to do their better, to be their best. So that is was the entire, yeah, I mean, the motive of forming the Cyber Crew, and yeah, we are very proud of it, and we are proud of you guys.
Thank you so much.
For those of you who are currently over there in the chat section, let's have a conversation of what's your understanding for Internet of Things. What do you feel? What is Internet of Things? I think I can see up some of the Q&As, and then probably we can have a thorough discussion till the time we are waiting for more participants to join in. So drop in your whatever you think about, what you feel, what is Internet of Things. Nehal, did anyone answer to the question yet?
Some of them are answering. One said no idea about IoT. The other said networks of networks. I think that's a correct answer. Like the basics, right?
Not precisely, but yeah. What was the
Yeah.
first one?
No idea about IoT.
No idea about IoT. So when will you start programming? Um, Unfortunately, in this session, I think we won't be able to have a programming session due to unavailability of hardware. I mean, if I knew that we were going to have this session, I would have brought some of my hardware down from my college room. But yeah, it will be a close to logical. So I think you will be able to develop an intuition of programming after this session. Network of networks is sort of wrong.
Students are
Mhm.
answering your question.
Okay.
One said connecting application, appliances, and many more to make them smart and easy to use.
Yes, that's sort of correct. Yeah.
A connection that joins various devices across the internet.
Yeah, can be, but IoT is not exactly a connection. But yeah, good attempt.
Yeah. A medium by which we can control things anywhere from the world over internet, such as ACs.
Actually, this is one of the examples that I am going to use, and it is sort of correct. I'll be using one of these examples of air conditioner itself to explain you guys how Internet of Things actually work.
A medium by which we can control things anywhere from the world over internet, such as the same answer, I guess. Yeah, I think they know quite about internet of things.
Yeah, at least the basics is clear, which is quite a good thing again. As
Yes.
in school, we were not at all aware of the terms and technologies that you guys know. So I think kudos to you all. And I do see some of the interesting answers over there, and I feel, yeah, you guys do have a concept, a basic concept of what the things are. So this entire session is basically aimed to make you understand the entire idea behind the IoT and as to why even we need it. I mean, you and I in our daily appliances usually don't encounter with the Internet of Things funda. But when you move towards the industry and automation of the things, that's where IoT comes into important role play. So this session is basically aimed to familiarize you with the trend of the tech, world outside your college and your school. I see an answer by someone which says IoT based humidity and temperature monitoring using Arduino Uno, IoT weather reporting system using Raspberry Pi. I think these are just the applications and the projects that are based on it. This is not exactly IoT.
Shubhank, one student has asked, cloud
Mhm.
system can be IoT.
Well, cloud system is part of IoT. A cloud system is used for IoT, but cloud system itself cannot be an IoT, which again I'll be clearing out in the presentation as we move further. But a good question.
Okay, so we can start now, Shubhank.
We can
You
start with
can
the session.
introduce yourself again, I guess.
So, all right. Hello and welcome once again to the people who were there before. My name is Shubhang Saxena, and I'm a pass out of 1617 batch from Jaipur School. I'm a third year ECE undergrad from Thapar Institute, and I'm a winner of 6+ national level hackathons, including likes of Smart India Hackathon and Hack 36. Also, I am DSC lead of my college, Alexa student influencer, and one of the most important things on my resume, and I'm not joking about it, is that I'm one of the founding members of Cybercrew, which is quite a proud moment for me that I see you guys having this session for school students. All right, so without further ado, let's start with Internet of Things. So before diving into any concept, we usually tend to see its definition to get a gist of it, right? So sensors and actuators embedded in physical objects are linked through wired and wireless networks. I can assume that almost 90% of you would not grasp any single word out of this definition, right? So that was for the formal introduction of the IoT. So now let's systematically try to break what exactly IoT stands for. So again, IoT is comprising of two words, that is internet and of things. So internet is probably something that you must all know because you guys surf on the internet, you guys use social medias, you guys do your homework on the internet. But in a nutshell, internet is a network in which you connect things with each other. It may be your laptops, it may be your desktops, it may be smart devices like Alexa, Google Home, anything. So it is an interconnection of devices around the world. Then of things, for the time being, we could definitely say that it is a way of magically connecting the things to the internet. For the timing, it is magic, but after this workshop, I hope that it is no more magic for you all, right? So in a nutshell, as I said, internet of things means that you manage and connect all the required devices to the internet. So the biggest question of the hour is that why do we even need to study IoT? I mean, why? What are we supposed to even be learning? This is not something that you guys are being taught in the school or in fact in the college itself as a curriculum. But this is a relevant skill which is required. So why are we even doing this? So let's take a small case study, as I said, to understand the example and the conditions of Internet of Things. All right. So let's imagine. Uh, I hope you guys excuse my drawing skills because I'm not very good at it. So let's take a scenario that you guys, that someone of you are going to a party, you enjoyed yourself, and then you are on a return, and then suddenly you want that, oh, I wish that my air conditioner could be turned on in the home. So as soon that I reach over there, I find the room suitable for me to relax and then eventually sleep. So down the line, 10 to 15 years from now, in the past, even the thought of this would have sounded crazy. But thanks to the advancement of Internet of Things and the various architecture around it, now you can definitely switch on your air conditioner from anywhere in the home, anywhere in the world, using simply a mobile app. So in this particular diagram, as you could see the flow of the information that is being passed, you are in the car sitting over there, moving towards your home, and you have your mobile. You probably have an app installed on it, which controls your home. You send a signal to your home via the internet, and you and your home are at a quite a distance, so there is no foul play involved. It is purely on the based of the internet, and then whatever controller you have at your home is basically turning off on your AC. This was one of the case one studies, which shows you that why and what is the gist of the Internet of Things, right? Second case, and probably the most important case that I assume that most of you must be knowing, is the Jarvis, the famous Jarvis of the Iron Man. All right. So for those of you who don't know Iron Man is just is a hero in the Marvel universe, and for those of you who know, he possesses a artificial intelligence system known as Jarvis. So in the movies, if you could see, he could remotely control his home and any of the devices using voice-based commands. So that's not exactly Internet of Things, but a part of Internet of Things was being used in this movie. All right. So this was all till theory of the concepts that we were discussing. But still, this doesn't give a gist of as to why and when the IoT is needed. All right. So let's first take a general overview, and then I'll be explaining you of how Internet of Things actually work. So on your screen, you will be seeing four columns. Four columns over there. On the left-hand side, there is this blue circle. This is Alexa, right? This is Google Home, which is equivalent to your Google Assistants in your phone. And this is a mobile app. Now over here, this is known as an internet or a cloud client, which is responsible for connecting these commands to the device. Again, I'll be explaining each and everything in detail, but this diagram is the thing that we'll be referring again and again in order to understand the concepts of the IoT. All right. Then there is this controller, the magic device, technically, which sends the signals and control all the devices in your home. So it may be AC, it may be bulb, it may be refrigerator, and I think, yeah, this was music player. So cool.
Shubhang, I would like to pause here. The students are asking that what all devices have you connected here? Can you explain again, please?
In this particular diagram?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. This is, again, I'll go through this diagram once again. The devices that you see on your left are namely the Alexa. It can be either of them. It's not compulsory to connect all three of them. It can be either an Alexa speaker, the small one that you see, Amazon Echo. Yeah, this is Google Home, which is again equivalent to the Google Assistant that you have on your phone. So you really don't need to have these bulky devices if you just have them installed or maybe have it as a service on your mobile phones. Either these two of form, or either you can have a mobile app which is being integrated via IoT. Then these three devices is connected to the internet, which again, as one of the students asked, can be a cloud service too. And then these devices are then connected to, for time being, let's call it a magic device. We'll come back to it. And then these magic devices is being controlled by this, and in turn, these magic devices can literally control any device in your home in which you configure it with too. In my example, I have used an air conditioner, a bulb, a refrigerator, and a music player. I hope that clears the doubt. So, moving further, let's just think about the general purpose computers that you use every day. All right. I hope you guys are well equipped with the knowledge of input and output devices. All right. So a quick Q&A session. Name all form of input and output devices that you remember or probably that you use every day in related to a computer. All right. So go ahead and post your answers over there. And then within a minute or so, we'll continue with this further session. Nehal, you could just let me know the answers of the people.
Yes,
for the
yes.
time being.
One student have asked Web hosting is also an IoT.
Well, it is more part of web development, but a certain part of web hosting is being used in Internet of Things, which again we'll go back and go into the detail further.
Sure thing.
So, are there any answers for the input and output devices, Nihal?
One has answered keyboard, mouse.
What is this? You guys need to mention the device also, right? So in our case, I assume that keyboard and mouse is input device. So you
Yes,
have to
yes.
like input and then keyboard and mouse. So do it that way.
One has said input, mouse, keyboard.
Okay. I need to know
Yes.
output devices too, guys.
They're saying keyboard, mouse, camera, monitor, output device, monitor.
Cool. So
Micro,
yeah, I take your word that you guys do understand the concept of input and output devices, right? So basically, entire Internet of Things architecture. I hope you guys know the word meaning of architecture. Architecture is nothing but a fancy word for a system. All right. So let's try to compare Internet of Things with the general input and output devices. All right. So you use keyboard and mouse for input in your systems. All right. So you are basically commanding the computer to do something for you. So this is the same facility that we intend to achieve in IoT. That is, we want a way to pass on the information to the architecture or to the system. So on the left hand side of my screen, the three options that I mentioned over here, the Alexa, the Google, and the mobile app, these are sort of input devices. Again, Alexa and Google Home are voice-based inputs. That is, you could literally control your home in the Jarvis manner, like saying, "Hey Google, turn on the lights." Yeah, "Hey Google, hey Alexa, turn off the lights." Something of that sort. So that is one form of input. And then the other form of input that we saw in our case study 1, that was controlling your devices using your mobile phone. So this is a form of input. Then comes the middleware or the middleman. Now you see, let's take a small example of the paper cup phones that we used to build when we were like a child, right? So the procedure and the way that you guys used to communicate, or at least I used to with my friend, was that we used to take two cups and then we used to put a thread around it in between. And then I used to speak in it and he used to listen to it. All right. So assume that one end of the cup is exactly equivalent to the left hand side of the screen, and the other one is exactly equivalent to the right hand side of the screen. So you definitely need a medium or a way to transmit your message and information. So in the case of Internet of Things, it's usually, in fact, it's always the internet and the cloud server that you host on it. Now, what exactly is cloud server? For the people who attended yesterday's web development session, they must be knowing about it. But just a breather for everyone out there, server is basically uh, a way to host your code on the internet. So that if this left-hand side device calls for an instruction, it's server's responsibility to contact to this magic device and then control these devices. And again, this is done via the internet. Now, the most important thing is the magic device. So any guesses for the people who must be doing some sort of hardware, what this magic device could be? What is the one magic device that you guys have been using? Hint, it is probably quite famous with the people who do robotics. So I am expecting for some of the answers. Nihal, could you let me know if all of the answers are coming for this?
Yes, I'll let you know.
So the magic device, best guess.
They've got blank, I guess. Nobody is answering. Processor, one has said processor.
No.
Microcontroller.
Yes, microcontroller. And name
Arduino,
one famous, yeah, exactly. Arduino.
Arduino, Raspberry Pi 4.
Yes, Raspberry Pi 2. But again, that is an entire discussion which we'll do in the next slide. So yeah, I again kudos to you guys because honestly, when I was in class 6th, I had or 6th or even up to 12th, no, I think up to 11th, I had no idea what Arduino is. All right. So yeah, so the magic device in our case is usually a microcontroller or a microprocessor device, which we'll explain in the further details of what these exactly are. So again, revising to this architecture, the left-hand sides are usually the inputs in whatever form you can take the inputs. Then the internet is responsible for transmitting that message or the instruction to this magic device. This magic device in our case can either be a microcontroller or a microprocessor. Then there is this switching device, which I haven't shown in this diagram, but we'll cover it in the further, which controls. This device gives the signal and this device control as to which devices are to be switched on or off or controlled. And then finally, these are some of the simple electronic and electrical devices which you can control via the IoT. So any
Shubham,
doubts till this point?
Shubham, one has answered smart
Hmm.
plugs.
Smart plugs. Yeah, again, see these smart plugs are integration of this. Is my mouse cursor visible on the screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this second, third, and fourth, second and third is being combined in the smart plug itself. But by the end of this workshop, I hope that you guys are able to make your own smart plug instead of buying it. And trust me, making your own smart plug is way more cost effective than buying an expensive one. All right. So yeah, smart plug is a very good example, but it basically is just this middle layer. All right. So any doubts to anyone up to this point? If you guys haven't
Yes.
understood anything, yeah, go ahead.
I think some of them haven't really understood what is IoT. One is saying is the magic device internet.
No, I just told you. The second device in the here, the middle, the network is known as internet. The magic device is microcontroller or microprocessor. We'll get back to that. Common example is Arduino. Cool. So anyone else with doubts in anything? If you guys want me to repeat anything, please feel free to post it in the Q&A sessions, and Nihal would let me know so that I can
Yes,
revisit the concept. Yeah. Go ahead.
one is saying, can you explain more on IoT?
As in like what is the particular thing that you haven't understood? Or maybe if you want me, I could like revisit the entire IoT. But I think if you like wait further for the presentation to go on, that will be more clear. But if you have any specific concept that is to be addressed, because again, IoT, I haven't finished my discussion with the IoT yet. So again, even if you want me to reiterate the IoT, it's nothing, just taking your electrical and electronic devices in your home, making them smart via microcontrollers or microprocessors. In our case, let's take an example of Arduino. You connect it to the internet and then you control these devices via the internet using either voice or mobile phones, or there is one more method that we'll see in the coming slides. So I hope that clears the doubt. And again, you don't worry, IoT hasn't been completed yet. We'll be discussing the entire concepts. All these four grids that we have seen over here will be discussed in further details. So Nihal, any more doubts there in the Q&A
Yes,
session?
there are a lot of doubts coming.
Okay.
One has asked, is IoT going to lead to too much data?
Well, yes, obviously, because see, I think this is a little off the topic conversation that we are having, but there is an advancement of IoT which uses machine learning in behind. Again, you guys don't need to understand what machine learning is. It's just a magical way to predict something. All right. So there has been this technological advancement in the field of IoT which deals with predicting the device's operations using machine learning. So that means you don't even have to command your AC to be turned on. It will basically study the patterns and the data of your presence in the room, and then it will automatically switch your air conditioners at whatever times or intervals that it has studied. So yeah, it will generate a lot of data.
One student is asking, is integrated circuit a magical device? Can you say that as an example?
Yeah, it is, but a given restriction that integrated circuit should be somehow connected to a network. I mean, if you take out your refrigerator circuit board, even that is an integrated circuit, but that is not an IoT circuit because it cannot be connected to a network.
Also, Shubhang, one has asked, cloud a space or a place on internet to save documents and commands to access from anywhere from the world.
Yeah, you could say that in a
Is
nutshell. See, again, internet is a network. It is not a place. But the servers over the internet are the place where you store that commands and you run the commands respectively.
also they want you to explain smart plug again.
Okay. I think let's just keep the smart plug for the end of the, let's say 2-3 slides further, because the concepts that I'll be giving you in the next slides are the building blocks of how a smart plug is being made. But if you want to know in a nutshell, smart plug is a device which is connected to the internet, and you could just simply plug any device into it, and then you can control it. You can basically control the plug. So like, you see the plug is the only thing which supplies electricity to your device. So if somehow you could control the plug, you directly or indirectly control the device. I mean, only the on and off funda. I mean, you cannot change the temperature of your air conditioner using smart plug, right? But you can turn it on or off via smart plug. Again, we'll get back to the concepts of how even a smart plug is being made. So, any more doubts,
So,
Nihal?
Shubham, no, the doubts are clear now. I would like to
Okay, so
pause
then,
here for a bit. Uh,
okay.
we welcome our Honorable Principal Director Ma'am, Vice Principal Ma'am, Headmistress Ma'am, and other respected teachers. We welcome you in today's webinar on Internet of Things. Hope you enjoy it.
Welcome all the teachers, and thank you for joining to this session. So yeah,
Yes,
so
Shubham.
as we were continuing with this, so let's discuss. As I said, these are the 4 grids that I saw, that I told you. So now let's discuss one by one of about all the grids that we studied. So this segment is known as the input segment. Okay. So again, the input sensors. I don't know why this 0 popped in over here. Kindly ignore that. So the input systems, in our sense, is of 2 types. One is either human, and second is a sensor. So let's first study about human. So we human act as an input, as I showed you in my previous slide. In this case, the human can command the device via the voice or via mobile phones. All right. So this is for the human part, which says can be voice-based system, mobile apps, and etc. The other, and probably one of the most important input systems that we haven't discussed in this diagram, but is equivalent to be placed over here, are the sensors. Now, what exactly sensors are? Sensors are basic electronic devices which are used to take real world values and convert them in computer language. I know it has gone bonkers. So let's try to break it in a simple analogy of what a sensor is. Um, so you see, in a human body, uh, the eyes, let's take an example of eyes. So eyes is a sort of device which captures the world outside, and it sends the brain signals to the brain in order to understand the world around us. All right. So if there was a need of taking the world values, the things around us, like the intensity of the light in your room, the number of people in the room, So these are some of the parameters which were needed for smart devices. So then came the concept of sensors. So sensors is basically an electronic devices which when being powered are basically used to capture these values and send it over to computers for their respective processing. Again, to simplify it even more further, let's just take some examples of the sensors. So here is a quick Q&A session for you. In the order of clockwise, guess all the sensors, and then we'll discuss the sensors. And by discussing the sensors, you will grasp the knowledge of how and why do we even need the sensors. Right. So a quick Q&A session in the in the group. So kindly answer the name of the sensors in the clockwise direction. And yeah, Nihal, you could just let me know when the answers arrive.
One has answered. The first picture is moistures.
Moisture sensor, right?
Water level sensor.
The second one?
No, I don't know. They have just wrote it. Second
Okay.
one they have said IDR.
IDR. Okay. Cool.
Third one have said ultrasonic.
Cool. I think the fourth one is a little bit tricky.
One has answered. The fourth one is DHT11.
Oh, brownie points to that guy. That's the correct answer, guy or girl. So yeah, I think that we have covered up all the sensors. Again, guys, you guys are awesome because I was in my first year when I got to know the names of these sensors. So you guys are way more ahead than me in this learning curve. So again, kudos to you all. So yeah, let's go over to the sensors one by one and we'll understand how these sensors work. So that will in general give you an idea of why do we even need sensors in the first place. All right. So the first sensor that we see over here, and again, sorry to interrupt the flow, but I request you all guys to kindly take down the notes while you are like attending this seminar because my presentation does not contain much text. It's more of pictorial representation and me speaking. So if you find something important or useful, kindly do note it down. I think it will be a sort of referral for you in order whenever you are building your project post lockdown, maybe in the lockdown if you have the current hardware. So yeah, kindly please do note down the points that you feel are important for you. And especially this part because I think sensors is something which is usually the school kids know about the sensors, but they don't tend to have an idea as to how they work. All right. So, okay, coming back to this diagrammatic, the circuit, the sensors. So the first sensor over here is the humidity soil sensor. As you see these two forks, these are being embedded into the soil. And this particular connector point is connected to this magical device over here, which in our case, now we won't call it magical device. We'll call it Arduino for the time being. All right. Because I assume I know that you guys are more familiar with Arduino rather than a magical device, right? So the aim of this sensor is that it will let you know the moisture level in the soil, and it will report to Arduino. All right. So the next sensor is LDR. So this is light diode, the light diode resistor. Yeah. I hope that is the full form. I don't remember. Yeah, but basically this sensor is responsible for letting you know whether it's light or it's dark. So how the sensor works or how you're going to test it is with that you connect it to Arduino and then you let it be in the open in front of a tube light and it will probably report some of the values to the Arduino. And then as soon as you place your hand on it, it tends to report 0 to the Arduino. All right. The next one and the most famous one is the ultrasonic sensor. So what this sensor does is that if you place your any distance, any object in front of the sensor, it basically lets you know, it returns you some values, which basically lets you know the distance between the sensor and any of the object that is being placed in front of it. And the third one is DHT11 sensor, which is responsible for reporting the temperature and the moisture in the air. So this was moisture in the soil, excuse me, and this is the moisture in the air. All right. So let's start with how these sensors work. All right. So see, in over here, you see that this is a simple electronic circuit. So the values which are being reported, in particular to the soil sensor, it happens in this way that you know that the naturally occurring water in the soil is kind of salty due to the mineral presence in it, right? And you know that salt water is a good conductor of electricity. So what this circuit does is it supplies a small current to this terminal, and it measures the flow of the current, right? So let's say you pass in some small current over here, and then there is this flow of current which is being measured over here. So if there is more water present in between these between these forks, there will be the current rate, the current transfer would be higher, thus showing you the presence of water is in more abundance than the previous values, in which case the soil must be dry. So what this sensor typically does is it just passes the electrical currents and it measures the intensity or the amount of current being received on the other end. So in an analogy, more water, more will be the current, and the current rate is then being shown you in the Arduino, that telling you that, okay, this particular soil sample has this amount of water. Again, it does not show you the amount of water. The values being reported by this sensor is the amount of current that is being received. And then it's up to us, the intelligent people who program the Arduino, to let us know the value of the water content in the soil, directly proportional to the rate of the current. Again, I think this has gone a little high for you guys. So let's just break this down once again. This is a device which simply sends current from one end to the other. For soil does have a lot of minerals, and then there is water present over there. So the rate of flow of the current, as salt water is a good conductor of electricity, tells us how fast, what is the rate of the current that is being flown from one part to the other, and that value is being reported to Arduino. And we smart people have to figure out the proportionality or the dependency between the flow of the current versus the amount of water. So that's how it works. All right, coming back to the next sensor, I hope that there wasn't any doubt in this sensor. I'll be explaining this, and if you have any doubt for any of the sensor, please feel free to post it in the section. All right. So this particular section is known as LDR. So what LDR does is that if you place your hand, it reports you the value of 0, and if you expose it to the light, it reports some values. So how does LDR work? Let's not go into details of it because it is a concept that you guys will probably study in class 12th. Is that this device is made up of a thing known as semiconductor, and that semiconductor is light exposing semiconductor. So what happens is that when light falls on it, there is a flow of electricity in the circuit, and Arduino reads that value. So the more light you receive, the more will be the value. The lesser light, the lesser value, and complete absence or total blackout is 0. Right. So this is how this works. So coming to the next sensor is ultrasonic sensor, and I think you guys must be knowing a little bit about the functionality, but let's just go over it. So there are T and R, as you can see over here, the transmitter and the receiver. All right. So this works on the concept of ultrasonics or sound. Now what happens is that sound is not able to propagate through a hard substance, right? So what it does is that if you place the sensor over a place and you bring it down an object, the transmitter part, it sends a audio signal in front of it. and any object in this vicinity, the sound waves will strike on it, and then it will return back or it will bounce back to the receiver end. Now we all know that sound travels with a fixed speed, which is 340 meters per second. I think, if I'm not wrong, yeah, 340 meters per second. So you have your speed, you have your time of receiving. If I say I send this signal at 0th second and I receive this signal at 2 seconds, so you have speed and you have time. So the distance between this object and the sensor can be then calculated by speed into time. Again, which is already being done by Arduino code for you. So you basically receive the distance values. All right. So this is how this works. And the last one is the humidity and temperature sensor. So again, this is also based on simple electronic circuits which exhibit or change their properties under different moisture conditions. Again, with that same, the more amount of moisture in the air, the better is the electrical conductivity. If you measure the rate of the electricity, you can directly find out the moisture level in the air. And as far as temperature is concerned, there is this bimetallic strip which is being used, whose indentation and various other electrical properties, they tend to change with the temperature. As you must have studied that if you heat a conductor metal, it heats more. I mean, if you heat a metal, it conducts more, and if you cool it down, it conducts less, and so, or sorry, the vice versa. So that is the way that this works. All right. So these are the concepts of the sensors and how they work. So any doubts still here? And then we'll understand as to why we need sensors at all in our project. So Nihal, any doubts in the segments for this?
Yes, one has asked what is the use of the second sensor, LDR?
Okay. It can be very well used in an application of I think you guys must have seen the urinals, right? The urinals that are being used in the malls and everything. Those guys use a combination of LDR and one more device. So what happens is that it strikes off a light onto your body and it is being received by LDR. Right. And if the LDR is being received, that means the person is still over there and it's time that we need to flush the toilet. If there is no person present over there, basically there is no reflection back of the light to the LDR, and thus the urinal does not flush itself. So one of the prominent applications of LDR is automated flushing system. So any other doubts, Nihal?
Yes, one has asked, can the ultrasonic sensor be used in smart dustbins?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, by your smart dustbin, I assume that you must need a application that probably is someone just puts on their garbage in front of the bin, the lid of the bin should open up, right? So ultrasonic sensors can definitely be used. You could place your ultrasonic sensor just in the front of the dustbin so that as soon as a person approaches it, there is a motor being driven and it opens up the lid. I think you guys are getting the gist of why do we need sensors. You guys are answering it on your own by asking these questions. That's a good thought process. Any more doubts?
Yes, there is a question for the first sensor. It is that, but then this will only work for above layer of sound because we will have to dig deep to measure groundwater.
Yeah, again, so this sensor, you see the size of the sensor is almost for you guys to just measure the top of the soil, because the agricultural department of India or any agriculture department around the globe, they have bigger sensors almost of the same capacity or almost of the same design concept, but larger apparatus which are being basically dug down and placed in the lower mantles of the ground. So those are the sensors which are basically used to measure the groundwater samples, the presence of groundwater in the soil sample. So yeah, the principle is same, but again, those sensors are bigger in size and they are intentionally placed lower the ground. So you definitely could not use this particular sensor for lower samples.
I found this question, I think it is really smart one. Can LDR be used to turn on the dark theme in the mobile?
Yeah, definitely. Wow, this is a good application. It can be. Again, LDR sensor is not that accurate, but you should give it a try. I mean, I'll be happy to see you doing that. So that's a good question. Again, if you are in the dark room, you probably would love to have dark mode being enabled on your mobile phone. So yeah, that can be done with LDR, because if LDR does not receive any light, it will give an output of 0 to the Arduino, and then probably you can control your mobile phones via it. So yeah, that's actually a very smart question.
That's it, Shubham. No further questions. You can move
Cool.
forward. Thank you.
So you guys are smart. You guys are way more smart than me, and you guys have already answered as to why we need sensors by asking these questions. You see, the sensors are basically used to collect data of the outside world. Right. So one more example of sensor in your day-to-day devices is your air conditioner. So you must be knowing that your air conditioner has a device known as compressor in it, which basically cools the room, right? And you set a temperature to the air conditioner. Let's say it's 26 degrees centigrade. So what happens is that there is a sensor, there is a temperature sensor in the air conditioner inbuilt, which detects the temperature of the 26 degrees. And as soon as the room temperature reaches that, what it does is that it instructs the air conditioner's circuit board to switch off the compressor till the time it gets it gets above the 26 degrees centigrade. So you see, a sensor was being used to control a device, to automatically control a device. So yeah, sensor is an integral part of Internet of Things, which could be used to control devices automatically without even human intervention, by just getting the real value from the sensors outside. So some of the projects that I could suggest you guys to build is automatic irrigation system. As one of the guys did put it up in the Q&A section, is that automatic irrigation system. So how you could do that is that you could take this soil sensor. All right, you could take this temperature sensor, and in fact you could take this LDR sensor. So plug in all these devices, use soil sensor to water the crops when you feel that soil humidity levels have decreased, and which are not ideal for plants. For temperature, if temperatures are quite high, you can plant more plants. You could basically give them more water. And if the humidity is high, you do not need to. And if there is night, you need to definitely stop all of these sensors, as it's a common practice to not to like put in water to plants at night. So these are some of, and again, you could even use the fourth sensor too. I mean, wow, I'm just getting ideas impromptu. You could use, let's say, develop this application for a farmer, and you place these ultrasonic sensors at the edge of his field. So at night, if there is any animal or anyone in the near presence of the field, his or her movement can be detected by this, and thus you can alert the farmer by probably putting up a siren or anything of that sort, so that he or she can then definitely take a look and prevent his crops from getting destroyed. So you see, this is the combination, this is the power of combining small electronic items and sensors to to achieving the ultimate goal of automation. All right. So moving further, so this was the input system. This application is not IoT as of yet, because it does not have the internet. So this was the sensors. One was human. The example of Iron Man was the voice one. The example of air conditioner was the mobile app one, and the sensor. So these are three types of input systems that we usually tend to have. Then comes the internet. So internet was the second, layer of this. All right. So internet is the common connection between a device and an input system. Think of it as a network operator between two mobile phones. All right. So like if you you subscribe to Airtel, for example, So what Airtel does for you is that it provides you a antenna, a basic service to let you uh, transmit information to other person. So the medium over here is something known as the radio waves. All right, the EM waves. So in our case, internet acts in a similar way. Again, in the example of farmer that I gave you, he do not need to know. He does not need the internet because his devices and everything is locally present in the farm and he's present over there. But now imagine if the farmer is out on a vacation and he still needs to monitor all his crops. This is where the internet comes. So if you are building any device using these sensors or any application, but it does not comprise of the internet, then that project is not an Internet of Things project. That is a general purpose electronics project. As soon as you put in the component of internet, you get the Internet of Things. So Internet of Things is usually for the people who want to remotely control their devices. All right. So this was the second layer of the diagram that we just covered. Along with that, I wanted to highlight the cloud server part. All right. So
Shubhank,
yeah.
I would like to pause you here. There is one interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Can soil sensors be used for multiple flower pots in the balcony, or it's just one setup with extensions? And please tell me how cost effective would it be for say 20 such pots?
Again, I'll have to check to the cost of the pots, but again, see, this particular sensor can be used only up to a certain distance. You see, the water, the plant, everything is in a form of circle around the field. So if you are planning for 20 pots, you would definitely need 20 of these sensors independently so that each pot can be monitored via it. Right. And as far as cost effectiveness is concerned, I really have to check to the costs because I don't remember it. But these sensors are not very expensive as far as I remember. But I'll just let you know the answer itself. I'll just check for the soil sensors cost. Yeah, just a minute. So yeah, it costs somewhere around 160 rupees. So if you go for 20 pots, you do the math, that is 3200. Then you take your Arduino, and if you want to have a connection, you want to monitor it via your mobile, maybe a Bluetooth device, or if you want to go for Wi-Fi, so you are looking somewhere around 4000 rupees for 20 pots. That is the cost estimate that I do. But yeah, so the restriction again, as I told you, the sensor, see, for the agriculture department application purposes, their sensors are bigger in size because they need to cover up much more larger area of water samples than for us who are just doing it as a hobby. So I hope that answers your question. So for 20 pots, you're looking somewhere around 4000 rupees.
Thank you, Shubham. You can move forward.
Cool. So yeah, we were on the internet, and one more thing that I wanted to cover in the internet is I actually forgot to write it on my slides. Was the server. So for the people who have been programming in Arduino, you see, you usually write a code in which you expect a input from the user, and then you do the following output. Like for ultrasonic sensor, you are always trying to receive the input via ultrasonic sensor, and then you display the output in the form of the distance between the object and the ultrasonic sensor. So what happens in the Internet of Things is that the input is usually somewhere far. It's not in front of the sensor or Arduino. So then what we do is the code, the Arduino code, it needs to receive that input. So we basically create a code server being hosted on the internet, which I'll show you in a while, is responsible for putting that input into the Arduino, and then the instructions follow on. Don't worry if you don't understand it as of now. I'll be showing you a service which you could very easily integrate. and you don't even need to worry about the code part, right? So now comes the magic device, which is known as the control device. So these are the three major players that you see in the market these days. One is Arduino, one is Raspberry Pi, and one is Node MCU. So a quick set of Q&A. Can someone tell me the differences between Arduino and Raspberry Pi? Forget Node MCU for the time being. Can someone let me know the differences between Arduino and Raspberry Pi? Nihal, you just let me know the answers that people receive, right?
Yes, yes. They are saying Arduino is a microcontroller and Raspberry is a computer.
Wow. You guys are totally genius. I mean, why am I even taking this session? You guys already know so much about, because again, for me the difference that I found out about Arduino and Raspberry Pi was at the end of my first year. You guys are way more ahead than in learning curve, and I feel very proud about it. Good work, guys. So yeah, in a nutshell, Arduino is just a single purpose microcontroller in which you write the programs, and it basically follows some set of instructions which is very limited. As you see, its memory space is also not that huge. Whereas the Raspberry Pi is a full-fledged computer in itself. It is almost equivalent to using a laptop or a desktop. And you guys won't believe me, but the latest version of Raspberry Pi, which is the Raspberry Pi 4B, it houses 8 GB of RAM and 2.2 gigahertz of processor. To be honest, it's more powerful than my laptop. I mean, I also use the same specs, except for the graphic card again. And the fun part is that you could actually control Arduino using Raspberry Pi. I'm not sure that most of you must have heard about this, but as you can control Arduino using your laptop and your desktop, right? In the same way, you could control Arduino using Raspberry Pi. I mean, that is a cool revelation. I experimented this out in my second year and it was working smooth. And I'll let you know after the session ends, for those of the people who are interested, that how to control Arduino using Raspberry Pi, and it's totally fun. So yeah, going ahead with the devices that you see on the screen is Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and Node MCU. So Arduino is, as most of you know, is a microcontroller, which you guys must be using in your school regularly. So I don't think I need to introduce you with it. Raspberry Pi is relatively a newer concept, and as stated, it's a computer itself. There comes the Node MCU. I wanted to highlight about this device in particular because most of the people don't have a clue about Node MCU. As you see, there is no network connectivity onto Arduino as of now. This is if this is the Arduino piece that you are given with, you cannot control it. You cannot connect it to the internet. All right. So you need a shield or a driver over it. Again, for the people who don't know shield is basically a device which is being placed on Arduino to extend its functionality. So the most common shield that is being used with Arduino to connect it to the internet is known as the Ethernet shield. So what it does is it is being placed on the Arduino, and then it gives you an Ethernet port, which can then which can be used to control Arduino to the internet. Then there is the other method of controlling Arduino over to the internet is using the Wi-Fi module. There is this small device, ESP8266. I think I'll just show you. Just a minute.
Shubham, the students are asking what exactly is Node MCU.
Yeah, I'm just coming to that. So before that, the two sensors that I said, the two shield and the module that you need is one is the Ethernet shield, which basically connects your Arduino to the Ethernet. And the other one is this ESP8266 Wi-Fi transmitter. So these are the only two ways that you could use to basically connect your Arduino to the internet. Now here comes the fun part. NodeMCU is a device which is being made by a company in which they have almost integrated the entire Arduino and placed the ESP8266 that I showed you in the board itself. So basically, NodeMCU is an Arduino which has Wi-Fi module built in. So you imagine how cool this is, because now you won't be needing any further shield or any Wi-Fi module onto the tops of your board. There is an inbuilt Wi-Fi module inside your own board. And to be very honest, Arduino and NodeMCU share almost similar structures in the hardware wise. You have the same amount of pins. The number of pins, although may vary, a little bit of functionality is being at loss. Like the number of analog pins are somewhere less in the NodeMCU than in comparison to the Arduino. As far as I remember, they for the new models they have completely excluded I think. Yeah, so I'll have to check to that. But for the applications which just require you to connect Arduino to the internet, that can be very easily done via NodeMCU. So I hope that clears your doubt for NodeMCU, and why I wanted to highlight the importance of NodeMCU is that you guys should definitely go for NodeMCU rather than having Shield or drivers being connected to the Arduino, because I've tried it both the ways, and trust me, connecting Wi-Fi module to Arduino is pain. It takes a lot of patience, and for some reasons it does not work well. So again, my suggestion is, if you want to go for Wi-Fi, go with NodeMCU. It is in fact cheaper than Arduino. Arduino is costing somewhere around 450, I guess. NodeMCU is somewhere around 300 rupees. So that's your best bet and bargain that you can do. So yeah, that was for the NodeMCU, Arduino, and Raspberry Pi. So going further, signal relay. All right, so coming back to my diagram over here. So we have discussed this part, which is the input. We have discussed the internet and the server. We have discussed this magical device. Now you see there is this arrow being placed over here. All right. So yeah, this is also a device which I did not mention it over here. And as to why do we even need relay? All right. So you see the switches that you have in your home are mechanical in nature. That is, you manually have to switch it on or off to control your device. So let's say that you want to develop an application to control your television using a mobile phone, just for the functionality of switching it on or off. All right, so for the people who are asking about smart plug, now we are going to discuss what smart plug is made up of. So what happens is that this device known as signal relay houses in a magnetic circuit. Again, I'm not going into details. If you are interested to know further, you can definitely check out this circuit diagram onto the internet, over to the internet, right? So what happens in this system is that there is this input AC signal, as you could see in this diagram, if you're following my mouse, that you could plug in your AC device over here, AC mains. You take out wire from your circuit, home circuit, you plug it in over here. Then you plug your device, the device that you want to control it with, over here. And then this switch can be programmatically controlled via your control devices. So this is where the signal relay comes in. You take your, see, Arduino's responsibility is just to deliver 0 or 1. If you want to turn on the TV, it will give you a signal of 1. If it will give you, if you want to turn off your TV, you will give it a signal of 0 at the end, right? And you want to control the switch, which definitely cannot be done with the mechanical switches that are there in your home. So this is a magnetic switch in which you supply your AC. This will be clear as soon as we move further with diagrams, because I have some detailed diagrams in front, which will show you how the devices actually work. So there is this input of AC signals over here, the main supply of your home. This is where you place your device that is to be controlled. And this is the point where you connect your Arduino signals to it. So as soon as you like, let's say you develop an app to control a TV or to control the TV like device and all. So as soon as you switch on the television from your mobile phones, what Arduino does is after receiving the signal, it sends a 1 to this switch, and the internal circuitry of this switch then creates a connection between this AC signal and the device that you want to control, just the way it is being done by you manually via the switches that are being like installed on your home, in your home, right? So if you again switch off the television using the mobile phone, the Arduino sends a signal of 0 to this device, and what this device does is that it cut off the circuit between the AC supply and the television screen. So the control of the device that you used to do manually, now you can do that via by sitting on your couch and literally controlling your television main supply switch using mobile phones. So see, that is the power of Internet of Things. All right. So any doubts still here? I think this concept was a little bit off the shelf. So Nihal, any doubts for the segment?
Yes, there are a few doubts.
Mm-hmm.
One has asked, can Raspberry 4 connect to computer?
Raspberry 4 itself is a computer. You cannot connect a computer to a computer. That is the point, right? You can control a microcontroller using a computer. You cannot control your Raspberry Pi via your computer. It can be connected though, but it is something discussion of this. I mean, the scope of this presentation.
Yeah, so next question is, Node MCU helps you to prototype or build IoT system. Am I right?
Yes, it does, because it has Wi-Fi module inbuilt in it.
Okay, so next question is, which language does Node MCU use?
Same as the Arduino. I think it is C. Yeah, compiled C for hardware. Yeah, it is the same language. And fun fact, for the people who are wondering that how to program in Node MCU, the Arduino IDE that you use to program your Arduino, you could use the same IDE to program your Node MCU. And in fact, the IDE of Arduino in the list of the devices does contain Node MCU. I'll probably after the contents of this session, I'll be sharing some of the links that can be used for you all to set up the Node MCU development. Cool. So any more doubts, Nihal, or can we continue?
No more doubts. You can continue.
Cool.
Thank you.
So I think so cool. Now let's make some IoT application devices, right? So this is a sensor known as the PIR sensor. This is an infrared sensor which basically senses. You see, we all are living beings and we generate heat. So what this sensor does is that it picks up the heat, and it does it via using the IR, and then it could be used in an application. So let's study the diagram of this application to understand how we can use sensors with the devices. All right. So this is the Arduino. And as you could see, there are two inputs in this. All right, one input and I think one is output. Yeah. So the one is over here is receiving the input of the PIR. That is, are the people present in the room or not? And then this is the pin which is controlling the relay. And as you could see, this is the main house supply which is being connected to the relay, the live, and the ground is directly connected to the bulb. So by this diagram, I hope it is clear to you that this particular relay acts as a switch between the main supply and the bulb. And this is a sensor which is giving the signal to the Arduino. So its application is, if you place a PIR sensor in your room in an appropriate condition, as to you can probably in a place that can probably pick up most number of people in the room, right? Strategically placing it at that place. So if there are people present in the room, the PIR sensor will give a value of 1. Then Arduino will receive this one and it will instruct the relay that it's a go. Make sure that you connect this main supply and the bulb. All right. So as soon as there are people in the room, the light will be on and people will have a good time in the room, right? They'll be sitting over there chatting and all. Now suddenly, probably they want to have snacks over some other room and they tend to move out of the room. And in a hurry, you guys forget to switch on off the lights or appliances in your room. So what will PIR do is that it has a refresh rate of 10 seconds. After every 10 seconds, it will try to read the values in the air in the room. And after you leave, after 10 seconds, it will see that there are no more people present in the room. So it will send a signal of 0 to the Arduino. Now Arduino is constantly listening to the 0, to all the signals that are being received by PIR. So as soon as it receives a 0, the Arduino clearly says it to the relay that as there are no more people in the room, kindly close the switch, the connection between the power supply and the bulb, and thus the appliances will be switched off. So this is one of the very interesting applications that you guys can definitely build. And you guys can automate a lot of things in your home. Again, do not do it with main supply. I'll let you know a better method of how to do it. But in a nutshell, this is how you make smart home. Right. Quick question for you all. Is this IoT? Head over to the Q&A section and let me know, please. Is this IoT according to you? Nehal, any answers?
Yes, they are saying no, it is not IoT as there is no role of internet.
Perfect. Again, I'm very proud of you guys. You guys are saying yes.
Yes,
It's
some are
okay.
saying yes.
Okay, for the person who said no, you have finally understood what Internet of Things is. And for the people who said yes, it's okay. Let's again revisit the concept of IoT.
There is one query, Shubhank. What is the difference between Arduino and Arduino Uno? They've been using it in our school ATL labs, but they're asking for the difference.
I'll just let you know in a minute. I think let's just focus on with that query first. You see,
Sure thing.
for the general overview of IoT architecture, there is this middleware involved, which is the internet. I don't see a component of internet as the circuit diagram. So this is a smart device automation. You are automating devices. You are controlling devices using some sensors, but this is not IoT. If you would have replaced this PIR sensor by probably a Wi-Fi module, and you would have developed a mobile app which could have the program to control the bulb via the mobile phone, then that would have been an IoT application. So for the people who answered it as yes, unfortunately your answer was wrong. And I hope that you understand now clearly that why this is not an IoT device. And for the people who said no, great work. Coming back to the query, Arduino Uno and the Arduino that you use are same. I think you guys must not be knowing the version name, but there are 17 types of Arduino. And I'm not joking about this. You could probably open up the official website of Arduino. You could browse over there with their, I think it was in their shopping segment. And you could see all the products of Arduino that are available over there. So it is a sort of misconception that people call this as Arduino. Arduino is the company. The model that you guys are generally using is Uno. But this is so common that people usually refer this to as Arduino. Arduino is the company, Uno is the model of the board. I hope that clears the doubt. So I think we can continue. So the next circuit diagram using a Wi-Fi module is this. Now, can anyone explain me the working of this function in this circuit diagram in the comment section? I'll be explaining it. No worries about that. But before that, if anyone is interested to like try out his or her hands by explaining this. Nehal, any answers?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's just give it a minute or so. I hope I'm not like making you guys sleep with this session. I know things tend to get a little boresome at the end, but I tried my best to keep this presentation as lively as possible, and I hope that it's quite useful for you guys.
There is one answer. He has said you're using ESP8226 to turn on a LED bulb.
A little more explanation on this diagram, because again, you are almost right. You have given me the gist, but for the person who has attempted this, can you just write probably a line of what you have understood, how this is working?
He's saying using Wi-Fi module to control the bulb.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I think, does anyone else want to attempt, or probably we can continue? Nehal, any more answers over there?
No more answers.
Good. So I'll explain. So what happens is
there
that,
is one answer now.
yeah, go ahead.
The Wi-Fi module received input and then sends the value to the Arduino, which in turn sends it to the smart plug to control the LED.
Perfect answer. Perfect answer. This was the explanation that I was looking forward to. And actually, the person has already explained the application of what I was going to explain. So what happens over here is that programmatically somewhere else, hypothetically we have developed an application on our mobile phones which could basically control, or we could send the signals to over the internet to our particular Arduino. So our Arduino receives a signal from the ESP8266, which is that turn on the lights. So what Arduino does is it receives the value, then this Arduino transmits this to the relay, the signal relay. Then the signal relay instructs the bulb, and thus completing the circuit of the mains and the signal being received. So this was the application. And is this an IoT application, guys? I'll just check on onto my presentation, and I have some few things to add on to this. Guys, please do post it in the Q&A. Do you feel that this is an IoT application now?
They're taking time to answer.
Oh. Guys, I'll again open up. Yes, I'll again open up the circuit diagram. Please take a close look at it. And do you feel that this is an IoT application?
Yes, they are spamming. Yes, it is IoT. It has an Wi-Fi module.
Perfect. So I think you guys now finally get the gist, and I'm happy that I was able to convey it. So before we move on to building our demo project, again, this will be theoretically built. I won't be able to use actual hardware to show it to you guys. So before proceeding to that, any doubts up to this point? It could be on sensors, internet, it could be microcontroller versus microprocessors, or anything of that sort. Do you guys have any doubts up to this point? Because now it's a hands-on project that we are going to build.
There are some doubts regarding the products. They're asking where can we find these Arduinos feasibly, and is there any alternative product for Arduino?
I told you guys, Node MCU is one of the alternates for Arduino, and I think Arduino is one of the most common devices that you could find. And as far as I remember, there weren't many good electronics shops out there in near to the area of a school and everywhere. So what I used to do is I used to go to the electronics market in New Delhi. It is near. I'll let you know. I'll let you know somewhere. It is somewhere near Jama Masjid itself. That is actual warehouse of finding all sort of electronics items. You could find all the sensors and everything. So I'll let you know, guys. You could probably take a metro trip and buy your own stuff, and it is quite cheap over there. And the best case, if you need anything in emergency, you can definitely check it out on Amazon. Amazon and Element 14s also. Excuse me. So, any more doubts until this point, Nihal?
Yes, one has asked what is MC development?
MC development? I really don't know. MC as in capital M and capital C, microcontroller development. If the person could just abbreviate it out. I mean, I'm not very good at abbreviations. Cool. Any more doubts apart from that? I mean, the MC controller is microcontroller development. If that is so, then programming an Arduino is equivalent to microcontroller development. Any further doubts? Huh? No more doubts? Cool.
Yes.
So let's try to build our own project theoretically. For this, I'll be using a thing known as Circuito.io. It is basically a circuit design application. As you know, unfortunately, we don't have the current hardware with us. So let's try to build one. Cool. So let's first take Node MCU. Let's drag it over here. And then let's take relay. Cool. Then let's take an LED. I think I'll take a bulb probably. Yeah. Cool. So this is it. Cool. So yeah, this is an application or a project in which we'll be controlling a device, an LED bulb in our case, using Node MCU via relay module. So now the most important part is that the relay module needs to be instructed via Node MCU to switch on to this LED or switch it off, right? That is the application of IoT that we have studied. So now, as in the circuit diagram, if you could see, yeah, this is there. So this particular connection is your input, power input, which is being controlled by the cable that is coming out of the relay module. This is the supply that is being provided to relay module, and this is the supply that is being controlled to the LED. Now, the most important part of IoT is to program our Node MCU and receive a command out of it. Right. Unfortunately, Circuito.io does not provide a way to program it. So I'll be showing you a sample project that I saw somewhere onto the internet, right? So I'll show you a YouTuber whose video you can follow up for building a simple project. That is So this is one of the projects that I referred to when I was building my first IoT projects. I'll share all the links and everything. So this project aims at controlling your home devices using your voice. So let's go into the code. I'll show you the code and then probably we can understand the code itself. Um, so here is the written tutorial. So the steps that he followed is, again, as I said, is theoretically something that we can do. He first downloaded and installed an app known as the Blink app on his smartphone. See, there are two ways to control IoT devices. Either is one that you build your own application and you do it on your own, or you use a pre-existing application that are already there in the public domain. Blink is one of them. Blink is quite a popular mobile-based application which is used to control electronic devices, right? So after the Blink project has been installed, he basically created an automation project. I hope my screen is visible, Nihal. Is it visible or should I zoom in more?
Yes, it is visible.
It's visible. A little zoom would do the trick. Yeah. So what he did was he decided the device as Node MCU and he decided the connection as Wi-Fi. Cool. So then again, as I said, the internet part in our presentation over here. Let's just go back to that diagram once again. Yeah, there it is. So as you could see, this part has been figured out by us. That was the Node MCU. What is to be controlled has been figured out by us. How it is to be controlled has been figured out by us. We decided to go with voice. We decided to use Node MCU and we decided to control a bulb. Now the only thing remaining is the internet and the server, the code server that will be used to send this code onto the Node MCU, the instruction, right? So for that, we installed Blink. It generated a auth token and something, which is something you can read on, but it basically gives you the power to control and connect things and authentication. So we created a button over here. And then this button configured, again, all instructions are present over there. And I'll share this link over here. Now what he did was he downloaded the Arduino libraries. And as I told you, the Node MCU support is inbuilt in the Arduino IDE itself. So as you could see, the Blink libraries are also being downloaded, and it is also helping us to download the Node MCU libraries so that you could finally program the Node MCU code over here. So as you could see, we selected the port the conventional way that you do with Arduino. You go for tools, you take your board and you select Node MCU board out of it, thus showing that it contains the support for Node MCU, right? And then you selected your Wi-Fi standalone and everything of that sort, which is again given everything over here for Blink itself. Now the code part. So again, as when we generated the Blink app, there was this authentication code. Authentication code is something which is being provided to the server to identify that whether it's you or it's someone else, right? So your authentication code is unique to you, and this makes sure that your Internet of Things devices is not being misused. Now imagine if there are no authentication codes and your device is being connected to the internet. So any hacker can technically control all of your electronic devices if you guys don't use authentication and authentication codes like this. So he passes all the Wi-Fi credentials for his Node MCU to be connected. Everything sets up, and then finally the Node MCU is up and ready and it is connected to your home Wi-Fi. Now for the hardware part, we have already discussed. He controls he connects the relay to the Node MCU using some of the connections and diagrams which are being stated over here. Now what he did was he powered up the Node MCU and also he powered up the relay over here to the main supply. And one end was connected to the bulb. Now, if you want to connect to your household appliances, I think the 0.6 is the one that is specifying it. Now, if you want to connect to your household appliances like fan, lights, etc., which are connected to the main power of your house, I would recommend you to take the help of a professional electrician. Make them, yeah, it was there. 4-channel relay, you can connect 4 appliances to the relay, because again, this is a precaution that you guys need to follow up. You need to apply your mains connection, put it over here in the relay, and one output should be connected to the bulb. So if you guys don't want to risk it out directly onto the electronic devices of your home appliances, for the power input, you could take the 5-volt power, which is being 5-volt input, which is being generated by the Arduino Node MCU by default, and connect an LED with it. So that is something that you can do. But if you are going with main application, make sure that you take a help of a professional electrician or someone in your home who can do that properly, right? So till now, we have connected Node MCU, Blink app, and our electrical devices. Any doubts still here? I know, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to present this project as a practical one, unfortunately, due to the circumstances. But I hope this theoretical concept gives you a gist, and I'll be sharing these links so that you guys can definitely go out and do this project on your own. Any doubts till this point, Nehal? Any doubts in the section?
Yeah, one has asked that like Arduino, do Node MCU also are of different types?
I don't think so. Node MCU is only of one type. There were different versions of it, but Node MCU is only of one type.
We'll wait for further questions for a bit.
Yeah, I think this was a little overwhelming, so we can wait for a minute or so.
One has asked that can you repeat the starting part?
Starting part of this project?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So our application purpose is to create a Jarvis-like cool thing, which is that voice control smart home using Node MCU. So this was our aim. So currently what we did was we installed a Blink app. It is an app which is already available on the Internet Play Store, in which you can use to connect to Internet of Things devices. Then we created a new project over here. We specified the board and the type of connection over here, which is in our case is Node MCU and Wi-Fi. Had you been using Arduino, you would have done Arduino. Then there would be a chip name ESP8266 and connection time Wi-Fi. Then this point, Blink will set an auth token, that is authorization to your email address. We will use this auth token later to link our app with Node MCU. Now you create a button just to control the relay and everything of that sort. And then we do this and create buttons and everything. Now comes the programming part. We download the Arduino IDE. We use Blink and Node MCU's libraries, extract it and all set it up over here in the Arduino itself. Then after doing all of that, we upload the code to the Node MCU. Along with that code, we select the board, we select the Wi-Fi and everything, the options, so that we make sure that we are uploading the code to the required firmware and not to some other board's firmware. So again, why do we even need that authentication which was being sent to Blink app with us? Now that you have created your project and you have linked it to the internet, if you do not provide an auth code, your code can be misused by, your device can be misused by any hacker around the place, and he or she can control your home devices. So in order to prevent that, and in order to verify that it's you who's controlling the device, this authentication is being used both by Blink and by you. So Node MCU will only work if someone is sending the commands on your device using the same authentication key, which is there inbuilt in your Blink. So finally, this is the code that SSID and password. This is for your name of your Wi-Fi and the password. So it connects your Node MCU to the Wi-Fi, and then you assemble the hardware, as we saw in the previous slides, that you could connect your Node MCU to your relay, your main supply to the relay, and then your bulb to the relay. And this setups the device. So till now, what we have set up is that we have done at this point, we have a fully functional connection between Node MCU and Blink. So basically, for the timing, we haven't configured voice as of yet, but you could control your device via switch. So I hope that clears up the doubt. Is there any? Yeah, any more doubts?
The students are asking that can they make these projects if they don't know how to code in Arduino?
Well, technically you can't. For Internet of Things, a microcontroller is a necessity, which I assume that you guys must be knowing as Internet, as Arduino is part of the curriculum these days in the school. So I think it should do the trick. But if not, then I think you guys need to learn Arduino first. Any more doubts, Nihal?
One student didn't understood the code of authorization. Can you repeat that again, please?
Code of authorization. Again, guys, you don't need to understand the code as of now because again, I'm not programming it, right? But authentication is just like your password. In simpler words, if you log into your Facebook, you use a unique password so that your account is not being hacked. Similarly, now that your devices are connected to the internet, in order to make sure that your devices are not being hacked, this is a unique set of strings, which is known as an auth key, which is being shared by your device and your host device, which is using it. In our case, it is Blink app. So your device will switch on and off the light if and only if the Blink app that is trying to do this shares the same code, the one that you put in your code. I hope that clears it out.
Shubhang, one of the student is asking, there are 2 node MCUs. Which one will we use?
I'm not sure what are the 2 versions. Let me just check. As far as I remember, there were only 1 version, but I think if it is then you guys should take version 2. Go with the version 2 one. Yeah, okay, cool. I understood the versions. Yeah, go with the version 2. This one. Cool. So, any more doubts, Nihal?
One of the student is asking you to explain the breadboard, please. I think it is quite simple, but you can just
breadboard. I think I'll have to see for the diagram. All right. So for the diagram, as you could see in the breadboard, the ones which are just in the rows of 2 are the ones who share their common line in a line. And the ones which are in the middle are column wise, which are being shared over here. So I don't know how to explain it, but like if you place your power supply over here, so this power supply would be same across these dots. And if you place your ground over here, that would be shared across all these dots. And if you share your device or power supply over here, this will be only accessed by this particular row and not even the lower below rows. So these are unique rows, these are unique columns, these are unique columns, and the power or anything or any signal is being shared across the dots only of this column. I hope that clears the breadboard. I mean, this is something that you guys should know by this time, and if not, you guys should, I'll definitely refer you guys to some YouTube videos that you could do for the same. Okay, any more doubts? Yeah.
No more doubts. We are kind of short of time, so need to.
Yeah, we are almost done. I think the code one part is the only thing that is left. So for the time being, we have done with the button switching and everything. Now going forward, there is this thing known as IFTTT. If this, then that. I'll just show you a quick preview of IFTTT. So this is a service which is being used by the people to automate that code process, which I told you, to keep it on servers and do things. So what it does is it have a lot of plugins in which if you could do this, it will automate for doing you the other things. So if I'll show you one, the Node MCU one, which I hosted. Just a minute. Yeah. So the IFTTT one that I used in my case was, I think I don't remember. Yeah, so it is somewhat like this. So what it does is that you connect it to devices. You do IFTTT commands over here. And you say, let's say there is this thing known as get an email with the latest IFTTT updates, or get an email when Google Assistant publishes a new action or anything. So what it does is it automates you the process of server handling. You don't have to write codes. So in this particular project, as you could see, the person is trying to give another control of the server to Google. So for the time being, your Node MCU was being controlled by mobile app, but after following these instructions, it will be controlled by Google Assistant, which is linked to your account. I'll not go into the further details, but this will generate again a key and somewhere the instructions, the way server handling thing that we discussed is being handled by IFTTT on its own. After you follow all of these steps, as soon as you complete the hardware, you assemble the circuit and you use your mobile phone's Google Assistant to say, hey, turn on the light. It will turn on the light. And if you say turn off the light, it will turn off the light. So in this way, you will successfully compile a project. Again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to show you the demo, but I hope that this software, in general purpose explanation was enough for you to at least try it out on your own. I'll make sure that I'll share all of the resources. And this definitely brings us to the end of the presentation. So thank you each and every one of you for being there in this presentation. And you could contact me on my Twitter by @19_Saxena. You could connect me with me on Facebook with the same name, Shubhank Saxena. And again, as some of the things which I usually receive from people, from school kids, is that I won't fix your Wi-Fi. I would hack Facebook for you. And I'm not responsible for your blown house fuses. So you guys need to be really careful when you are working with electrical devices. And again, I won't fix your PC. So thank you each and every one of you. Nihal, are there any doubts that I need to further address before we end the session?
There are a few doubts. One has asked, if you want to connect more than 4 devices at a time, then do we have to do the setup again?
No, the thing is that there are some relay channels. I showed you a single relay channel. You could definitely take an array of these relays. There are 4 arrays, there are 8, 16 arrays. So you could just take an array out of it, and then you can connect multiple devices.
Sure thing. No more doubts are there. So I think we can conclude the webinar.
All right. So again, thank you everyone for attending this session. I hope that this session was useful for you. I'll be sharing all the links and my presentation with you all so that you guys can refer it. And hardware is something that we guys cannot have a discussion on it. So I would love you all to experiment it out, try to build your own projects. You can again contact me, and if needed, we can have another session post-COVID or maybe somewhere in between, in which if I get in hands-on with the hardware, I'll be showing you a demonstration of how to build these devices. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Deepa ma'am, for having me over here in this session. Thank you, Nihal. And
thank you, Shubhank. Thank you for a wonderful session.
Thank you, Shubhank, for helping us understand Internet of Things so well. I found it very interesting and useful. This will surely be going to help us all. I request you all to explore more about IoT and its devices. If you require any further information, feel free to connect with us. We will be sharing a feedback form with you, and I request you all to please fill it and don't hesitate to give us your suggestions to improve our upcoming sessions. The link to feedback form is also shared in the Q&A section. In the end, I would like to conclude by thanking our Honorable Principal Director Ma'am, Vice Principal Ma'am, and respected IT department for providing us with this platform where we were able to share and deliberate various ideas. We would also like to thank them for their unending support and for boosting our morale. Thank you so much for participating, and we look forward to see you in our next session on Advanced Python on 8th June. Well, that is going to be super interesting too. Thank you once again. Keep going and keep growing. I would say it again. We will be sharing a feedback form with you, and I request you all to please fill it and don't hesitate to give us your feedbacks. We would always want to improve our sessions. The link to feedback form is also shared in the Q&A and it will be mailed to you further. Thank you all for participating, and we would look forward to seeing you in our next session on Advanced Python on 8th June.